Hello there, and welcome to our It Starts With Mom live conversation today on postpartum and the holidays. I'm Ashley Lemieux, and I am the host of the Healing Her podcast, where parents connect on practical tools to find a path to healing and peace. I'm also the mother of a 2-year-old daughter, and I love connecting with other moms. So I'm truly glad to be here with you today to dive into a topic that resonates with so many: navigating postpartum during the holiday season. Now, I don't know about you, but for me, the holiday season can be a joyous time filled with family, social obligations, and also the need to always feel like I have to be merry and bright. But for some new moms experiencing postpartum depression, anxiety, or even the baby blues, the holidays can be a particularly difficult time, and they might not feel up to celebrating. 1 in 8 women struggles with postpartum depression, and 1 in 5 experience a mental health condition during pregnancy and the postpartum period. So, the most important thing to remember this holiday season is that you are not alone. Whether it's your first holiday season as a new mom or you're juggling a growing family, we know this time can bring both joy and added stress. So today we're here to talk about managing expectations, your self-care, and how to make the most of the season while taking care of yourself. Let's get started. I'd like to introduce you to our experts that we get to speak with today who are going to be joining me. First, we have Dr. Cassidy Freitas, who is a licensed marriage and family therapist and mom to 3 with a virtual group private practice in California, where she supports parents navigating fertility, pregnancy, postpartum, and parenting young children. She hosts the top-rated wellness and parenting podcast, Holding Space. Welcome, Dr. Cassidy. We also have Maria Zietz, who is a registered nurse, certified childbirth educator, and licensed professional counselor, certified in perinatal mood and anxiety disorders, who is dedicated to patient care at HCA Healthcare affiliate Methodist Healthcare in San Antonio, Texas. She teaches Beyond Baby Blues, which is a free and in-person class at Methodist Healthcare for any mother and her support person. We are so lucky to have these knowledgeable and accomplished women with us today, so let's dive in. Okay, Maria, I would love to start this conversation off with you because we all know that everything can be so heightened during the holidays. Let's first start by connecting on definitions so we're all on the same page of what we're talking about today. Baby blues and postpartum depression. Are they the same thing? Can you help us identify the conditions of each of those?
Great. Thank you so much. Hi, I'm Maria Zietz. I'm really happy to be here today. It is an honor and a privilege, and I'm in gratitude for all the moms and other support people that are listening today. And so first, I wanted to let you know that baby blues is not postpartum depression. Baby blues is a normal transition, and it can affect up to 85% of new moms. There could be emotional sensitivity, weepiness, feeling overwhelmed. And why? Well, it's because of the hormones and the significant change in those hormones. In fact, it is the largest drop in hormones that a woman's body will go through. And this usually happens within 2 to 3 weeks following the childbirth. Next is depression, postpartum depression. This can happen in about 14% of mothers. This is different. A mom will usually tell me, I feel like somebody just came in the night, a thief in the night that stole my motherhood away from me. They don't feel like they can bond with the baby. They have negative thinking about themselves, helplessness, hopelessness, worthlessness. They can become very irritable and anger and rageful. And then that could lead to low self-care. They can have intrusive and scary thoughts of harming themselves and the baby. That's postpartum depression. And that usually happens within a month later following the baby blues. Sometimes the baby blues don't go away and they go into what we call postpartum depression.
Thank you so much. I think that there is so much power that comes when we can have the language that describes how we are feeling, because it then helps drop the shame that we might feel in understanding, is this normal? Is this not? Am I making this up in my head? But then knowing that other people experience these types of postpartum depression and symptoms, and then knowing that there's support for it, there is so much freedom in that. So this brings me now to my next question for Dr. Cassidy, specifically in the holiday season where there's already this added pressure and you are already in an intense postpartum period. How can new moms recognize when it's time to then seek help? And when they realize they need help, what are those first steps that they can take in order to get it?
This is a really important question. And I just want to first say how grateful I am to be here and how much I wish that I had been a witness to a conversation like this with my first, who is now 13. So 13 years ago. And just want to recognize that for those of you who are tuning in, what a proactive and protective step you have already taken by tuning in today. So with my first, I did experience postpartum anxiety. And I wanted to name there that I was a therapist at the time. I was still getting my training and still working towards my hours. And so I knew what the symptoms were. And it was shame that stood in the way and blocked me from getting support. So I want to name, even with postpartum psychosis, how we've heard that those are the stories we hear on the news. And so if you're someone who's struggling with intrusive, scary thoughts and you're disturbed by them, right? You're distressed by them. That's not psychosis, right? And I think that because I was having some of these distressing thoughts, I was afraid to voice some of those. But oh my gosh, the first time I did to a safe provider and I shared some of these thoughts I were having, and to have the relief that came with them saying you're not alone, and then the really powerful then process that led me down of getting support and healing is really, really meaningful. And I also want to name that my partner struggled with postpartum depression. So the non-birthing person can also be at risk. So what are the first signs? If you are struggling, you're feeling overwhelmed, if it's impacting your functioning, you deserve support. You don't have to fit into these perfect boxes of these diagnoses either. Like if you are feeling like this feels like a lot and I'm feeling like I'm struggling here, or I could use some extra support, or I just need to have someone to have a conversation with about some of the things I'm struggling with to figure out what steps I could take to get more help. You deserve support, and therapy can be a beautiful place for that. But I do think that sometimes the first step is just opening up to one person that feels safe, right? Because shame has a really hard time festering and continuing to block us with those thoughts of like, there's something wrong with you. When we open up to a safe person and we see that we are still cared for and loved, even with the parts of us that feel messy. So identifying who that person is and taking that meaningful risk. I say risk because it can feel so risky, but it's a meaningful one, a meaningful risk to open up to someone who feels really safe. And then from there, reaching out to your healthcare provider, whether that's your OBGYN, your midwife, your primary care provider, or a provider that feels like a safe space for you. Because if it's somebody who knows you and you feel safe with, then they can help be the bridge to you getting more support through seeking a professional mental health provider. So Postpartum Support International is a great resource for this, where you can find somebody who's in your area, who takes your insurance potentially. Support groups can be great as well. You may consider medication in some cases, and your doctor, can help you understand what could be considered safe during breastfeeding, for example. And of course, as was mentioned, in case of an emergency, if you are having those thoughts of harming yourself or your baby, that's where we take immediate action. We call 911, we go to the nearest emergency room. Those are the steps. So there's, you deserve support, even if you don't fit these diagnostics. And if it is an emergency, we want to make sure that you know which steps to take there as well.
Thank you so much. I often think about how most of the time that moms really aren't being checked in on until their 6-week OBGYN appointment. And so I just want you to know that you don't have to wait that long. If you are like, I need support right now, you are deserving of the support right now. And I love the steps that you just gave us so that you can go seek support earlier if you need it before that initial 6-week check-in. Maria, I want to go back to you. What advice do you have for new moms who are trying to balance their self-care with the holiday demands? And as we talk about this, what are some realistic expectations that new moms can set for themselves during the holidays so that they can avoid feeling the overwhelm that can often come?
So first, I would say if a mom is going to be going back to work, I always like to address the need of getting all of that, short-term disability, FMLA, all of that clarified before, she has her baby. We have it all clarified. That is important. Second, we're going to start looking at what do we need in our home. All right. So for example, if I have a dog or dogs, or if I have a cat, who's going to take care of the pets? Who are going to feed them? Who will be walking the dog or the dogs? This is important. Who is going to be cleaning the house? Who is going to be doing the cooking? Will friends be able to cook foods and bring them over for us, right? Who's going to do the laundry? Who is going to fold the clothes? This is extremely important, right? Who's going to take the garbage out? Recycling, right? And so also, I always address that their partner or family member or friend, whoever is going to be with the mom, to be the messenger to their visitors. So, for example, if you're not feeling up to having visitors come in the hospital, this is the time where your support person says, this is not a good day for us. The baby's been up. We're trying to adjust. We'd love to see you, but we'll take a rain check another time, or we'll call you or text you to let you know when things have improved and mom is getting her sleep and baby's adjusting. Extremely important. And then when they go home, I always make sure that they know who to call. So, for example, if mom is having problems with the breastfeeding, who is she going to call? Have her OBGYN number on hand, and I'm sure they all do. And also, if they're breastfeeding and they need help with that, right? And what if they're having mastitis? Okay, that's important. That OBGYN doctor needs to be called. And so moms have the resources they need. Who do we call? Who is my person that I can call that they know they're not going to be judged or told that they're not doing a good job or to do it this way? So these moms know where and who to call. So next we're going to look at what is going to be my self-care. So do I like a little bit of exercise? Well, I do know that some moms obviously will have a C-section, and that's not something they're thinking about right now. But even to get up and be active around the house a little bit, take it easy. They'll have the instructions from their OBGYN on exercise, but also sleep. I always tell my parents this. It's not about how you used to sleep. Could be 6 to 8 hours or even more. Now, I will recommend sleeping when you can, even if it's in short periods of time. Also, lots of purified water healthy diet, know who their peer support is, right? This takes a village to take care of a mom. You know how we say it takes a village to take care of a child? Well, it takes a village to take care of a mom, and we have to know our tribe. Who's going to be my support? Who's my, what friend can I call, etc. Knowing that you're not alone. And there's also psychotherapy, but also medication. Self-care is part of that. So that's what I would recommend in order to balance this time, especially around the holidays or any time, that mom needs to be realistic and to really think about what she needs and not be afraid to say what she needs.
I love how you talked about kind of pre-planning as much as you can. I know for myself, and if you have experienced any type of infertility or it's been a long journey of trying to get your baby here, for us, just focusing on getting her here is where all of our attention went to. We just needed to get her here and get her here safely. So there was no preparation on what would be happening after she finally was here. So I found myself in this situation where I was so overwhelmed because the support that we needed was not set up. And as a first-time mom, I didn't know that some of the things that would happen were even possible that they could happen. And so I love that you talked about that, and also just allowing yourself to have the permission to know that this season is your newborn postpartum season. It is okay and expected for you to slow down. And if that means that this holiday looks different than it has in the past or that it will in the future, that's okay. Thank you so much for those tips. Those are really helpful. Dr. Cassidy, with the holidays also comes family gatherings. And I know that a lot of times families can bring these well-meaning, but sometimes very overwhelming advice with them. So how can new moms set healthy boundaries with family members during the holidays? And also, what can friends and family do to help new moms?
This is such an important question and is one of those things where we as a parent have agency, right? I think that there's so much that we can't control in terms of other people's feelings or other people's opinions, but where we can reclaim agency and reclaim in that sense the holidays for ourselves during this really precious and vulnerable time is through boundaries. Okay, so what are some boundaries and what are some tips around these boundaries? So first, we want to be really clear and direct. And this might not be something we're so comfortable with, but we have to ask ourselves, what is the thing that I value, that I really want to prioritize here? And with that in mind, move forward with this clear and this clarity and this directness. Letting family members know what you need, where your boundaries lie, whether it's about how long you're going to stay, who holds the baby, or what advice is welcome. Clear communication can help manage expectations, establishing a no advice zone. So maybe if well-meaning advice becomes overwhelming, it's okay to say thank you, but we have a plan that works for us, right?
Mm-hmm.
Taking breaks when needed. Don't hesitate to step away to rest, feed the baby, or have just like a quiet margin and a quiet time to yourself. Maybe setting up a space for yourself and your baby where you can retreat if things start to get overwhelming. As was mentioned, limiting visitors or timing. It's okay to say no to large gatherings or limit the amount of time that you spend at an event. You can plan shorter visits or schedule quiet time before or after a gathering. Delegating when possible, as was also mentioned, but when it comes to the holidays, if you're hosting, ask for help with cooking, cleaning, or baby care. You don't have to do it all. And it's not possible actually, right? And so just really honoring that for yourself. And saying no, just being able, just saying no without the guilt, right? Guilt might pop up and be like, oh, but we value this thing and now we're saying no to this, and just reminding ourselves, oh yes, thank you, guilt, for these reminders of these values, but there is this value that I'm choosing to prioritize right now during this season of my life.
Thank you so much. I know that sometimes when we talk about boundaries, if you are someone who has a hard time saying no or speaking up for them, it can make you kind of sweaty just thinking about it, which was totally me. So this is so important and impactful, and something that I also did that I would tell myself and tell my family and friends is, hey, I might commit to this because right now it sounds really fun to come to your party or this gathering, but I just want you to know during this holiday season, I'm reserving the right to be able to change my mind at any time because I have a newborn and this is all new for me. And so that was also super helpful for me, setting that expectation. Thank you for all of those tips. Maria, the postpartum body is still healing during all of this busyness. And holiday festivities can sometimes push women to do more than they should be doing. What are some ways new moms can honor their bodies and recovery during this time?
Oh, that was great. You bet. And thank you, Dr. Cassidy. I loved what you had to say there, in terms of boundaries. Oh, absolutely. I would highlight that everywhere. And knowing and how to set a boundary, so important. So important. So, yeah. So, how do we honor our body during this recovery period? Positive affirmations can be very powerful. For example, she could say, "What did I do well today?" Or "What is a small victory that I accomplished?" And that could be asking for help. That's amazing. Some moms will tell me, "Oh no, I can do this all. I got this. No worries," that kind of thing. And so asking for help could be a celebration of a small victory for a mother. Take a break when you need it. I remember that. I remember with my first baby, I didn't think I had to take any breaks because it was just great and we're just going along. But then when that second baby came, I knew at that point, no, I deserve a break. So, some soothing activities, I would always ask moms I encourage them to look at this. What are some soothing activities for you? Would that be like calling a friend, going for coffee or for tea or for lunch, getting your nails done, getting your hair done, getting your toenails done, getting a massage, reading a book, go for a walk, take a nap, do something nice maybe for someone, or take a bath and a shower. Talk to someone who will listen, someone who's not going to judge you or shame you or make you feel guilty. Maybe watch your favorite show. Maybe it might be something funny. I always say, go out and get your comfort food, whatever you like, a nice special dessert. And so, with all of that, the positive affirmations, I think, are very important in order to understand how to honor your body.
That's all so impactful. And I want to then take this kind of a step further for Dr. Cassidy, because doing affirmations and trying to make yourself feel better can be really difficult if you are experiencing baby blues or postpartum depression. We know that you are going to be needing more support. So for those who are dealing with the baby blues or postpartum depression and the holidays are really feeling isolating because of it, what resources or support networks can new moms turn to for help during this time?
Such a great question. And I want to sort of honor, first on the flip side, there were times and moments where I actually just wanted to be in my house alone, with the older kids out of the house or with everyone out of the house, and just to be in my own home and to be able to read that book or to be able to watch that show, and so that's okay too, to ask for that, right? To have that need. And it can be an incredibly isolating time as well. And so in terms of resources or support networks that could provide this much needed help and comfort during this time, local new mom groups or classes. So many communities do offer new mom groups or classes or events for mom and baby, or for parent and baby, which can be a lifeline for a connection. I know that for me, I was recovering from a C-section and I was like having, struggling with engorged breasts and mastitis. And it took everything in me to get out of my house into that first lactation support group. But it was life-giving. And I do know that it took me time to like sit down and to feel comfortable and to not feel like I was comparing myself, or to not feel like I needed to have like this mask of perfection, like, oh, I'm fine. Don't look too close. It took me a while to embrace the vulnerability of like being real. But the minute I did, and some connections were built, those friends are still friends today.
Mm.
They were lifelines in the middle of the night, right? When I was up, and I could count on one of them being up too in our group chats, right? You can find virtual support groups also through platforms like Peanut or Meetup. Postpartum Support International is another great resource for finding these groups, looking at your local hospitals to see what's being offered. Postpartum doula or a night nurse can be another great resource for having support at night, having a support with newborn care, breastfeeding, sleep routines, even light household duties. Allowing you to get that rest and recovery time. I just think protecting parental sleep is such a protective factor across the board for whatever mental health concern we're considering. Protecting sleep. And what's going to be challenging in postpartum that we can kind of guarantee is sleep. So a postpartum doula or night nurse can be really supportive, or asking a family member or a friend or somebody that you trust to come and help you at night, or taking turns with your partner at night too, can be really helpful. I know that for me, if somebody asked me, I'm having a really hard time and I would really love for you to come by during the day, or like, gosh, would you be able to come and help like one night this week? Just so I can kind of know that there's at least one night this week that I'm going to get like maybe a 4-hour stretch. I would feel honored. I wouldn't feel like, oh gosh, how dare you ask me? Like, you're asking too much. You're too much. That thought wouldn't go through my head, right? The right people will be like, wow, what an honor that you would invite me into your home during this time. And yeah. So, and then maybe sometimes designating a support person to kind of be the one to check in on you, right? To be like, hey, can you be like my person that like checks in, maybe once a week, maybe more, right? Or to kind of check in and see how I'm doing, that I feel safe with you. And if I do reach out, maybe you could help me kind of find some of these resources if I'm just really feeling really sleep deprived, exhausted, overwhelmed, right? So identifying who that person is and letting them know that they are that person for you.
You brought up something that I really want to dive deeper into and I'm so happy that you brought it up, because I know that so many women and so many moms struggle with this. And it's this idea of perfectionism and being afraid of judgment, or feeling like you're not good enough, or comparing yourself to other moms or other women. And especially during the holidays, I know that many new moms feel the pressure to create this perfect holiday memory for their families. And of course we do, right? We want everyone to have fun and have it be memorable. But Maria, how can they let go of perfectionism and enjoy the moment for themselves instead?
I love that word, perfection. Wow, I know. I remember it so well. I wanted to be the perfect mom, the perfect wife, the perfect therapist. And I found out that there's no perfect, right? There's no perfect. No one's perfect. But I love that word because it just is great. It feels good, right? Perfect feels good. So let me start out by saying that perfectionism strives to be a shield against the pain of blame, judgment, and shame. So there it is, right there. I will bold those words. Right. And often I'll talk about, the mistakes that maybe she was making and just was learning. We're all on a learning curve. We still are. I still am. My children are older. And so I always reframe these mistakes as learning opportunities. Your baby will be your biggest teacher. And so that's what we would talk about. And so we also talked about, what are those triggers to perfectionism? What is it that's driving you to do this, to do that, to get this done, that done, everything, right? What is that about? And we do encourage the exploration of the triggers. What about these triggers? How did they come about? Was it something in the past? So we deal a lot with that. So that's how I would look at perfectionism. I like to practice self-compassion and try not to fix something and go into understanding self-acceptance, self-worth.
Thank you so much for that. This is such an important topic that I hope everyone listening knows it's not only you that's might be struggling with this. And everything that you just told us is so valuable. Now, Dr. Cassidy, I know that we touched on this just a little bit, but I would love for you to expand on this component of holiday season and being postpartum. How important is it for partners and family members to be a part of a new mom's postpartum wellness plan, especially during the holiday season? And what role can they play in offering their support?
I mean, we know that along with, as I mentioned, protecting sleep, that social support is like the number one protective factor for new parents. And so just to kind of summarize what we've discussed so far, like if you're that social support person, like I'm talking to you right now, right? Ways that you can show up for this family, for these new parents, emotional support, right? So family members can offer emotional support by actively listening, validating feelings, being patient as they navigate all the hormonal changes and physical recovery. They can support with that physical recovery. So new parents need help with everyday tasks, especially when recovering from childbirth. So support people can take on more household duties in the home, caring for older children, taking them out to go to the playground, right? Helping with drop-offs or helping with baby care to allow the mom or person to focus on their healing and helping reduce isolation. So the holiday season can sometimes really heighten feelings of isolation for new parents, especially if they're feeling detached from like that festive mood. And so family members can include them in low pressure, comfortable gatherings to ensure they feel supported and connected. Helping with sleep, as we named, whether that's maybe supporting during the nighttime, right? So just the parent knows that that's coming, just to have that, like, gosh, even a 4-hour stretch, right? Can be so helpful. While maybe if they're still breastfeeding, maybe what you're doing is everything else that comes after that, right? If their bottle is being offered, being able to support with those feedings as well. Sometimes even just financial support, like that is something that you can offer, right? Whether it's financial support for a nighttime nurse or for cleaning services, right? Like something that can be supported in that way too from afar sometimes as well. Helping kind of recognize warning signs, right? So if you might begin to notice that there's a shift in the parent's behavior or mood, and being informed and attentive can really ensure that timely professional support is accessed. And encouraging self-care, as we've discussed. And I think, being present but not pushy. So just simply being present and available can make a huge difference. We don't need to push the advice, right, or expectations onto the new parent. Allowing that parent to ask what they're needing, to share what it is that they're needing. Maybe you could even kind of frame it as, what are you looking for right now? Do you want advice, or do you just want someone to be here with you? And like letting them kind of sit with that, like, what is it that I'm needing? And maybe it is advice, right? And that's great. But maybe it's just like, I just need someone to like hear me out right now. And that's okay too.
All of these things help kind of lift the mental load that so many moms carry in their home. And everything that you just said creates this ecosystem around mom where these things that she's trying to tick off in her mind to make sure that they are done, when she knows that other people are helping support that is, for me, was the most supportive thing. So thank you so much for your guidance. I want to wrap up this incredible conversation that you guys have been contributing to today with one final question. And I'm going to direct it to you, Maria. After the holidays, when support systems have all gone home, we also know that the weather can add to the PPD and baby blues if you are stuck in the house. What small self-care practices or routines would you recommend to new moms, and how can they realistically incorporate them into their day?
Absolutely. Perfect question. I love it. You're right. After the holidays, we normally feel that, right? Family, friends are all going back to where they came from. They're all going back to work, and we feel lonely. Like, wow, like my support's here and it's gone. And that can affect the mom and her support person. Absolutely. And so now we got to figure out, okay, how could we prepare ourselves the best we can for this kind of a drop, right? A drop in that support, just like the drop in hormones after having a baby. How do we prepare for that? Okay, so I look at, let's be realistic. Okay, communicate with your support person. Look, my family's going to be leaving. I really enjoyed having them. Do you think maybe your family or a family friend could come in and check in on me or us while we're going through another adjustment after the holidays and everybody leaves? That's always nice. But creating a routine, I think, is going to be very helpful here, and to be realistic about this routine. So, for example, I would always add self care into my routine, even though we can set up our routine with, okay, we're going to be doing this in the morning, and then we're going to go take a walk, and then we're going to go to the store. And after that, we're going to come back and again, it can go on, right? Of all these things that can be put in place except the self-care. So I often encourage my moms and their support person, communicate realistically what your needs are. So if that means that I need to go to the gym or I need to go take a walk um, at around 3 o'clock, or maybe during the baby's nap time, oh, that's another time. If she has somebody there with her, that she can do that. So say she doesn't and she's by herself. Well, who can I reach out? So have that person, that support person who she feels confident talking to, a friend or family member, reach out to them, say, I'm going to give you a call around this time. Or maybe this might be a time that you can invite a friend over after all the family leaves. Maybe I'll invite a friend over to come over and maybe we can have lunch, or she could bring lunch, or he can bring lunch. So don't be afraid to make specific requests. And I'm not feeling like myself. Who can I talk to? Do I need to call my therapist? Oh, that is another one. Sometimes we let go of these psychiatric providers until afterwards. And then guess what? Their schedule is filled up. And then a mom can't get in. And so what I recommend is keep in touch with your psychiatric providers. Don't let go of that and make the appointment already. Do things in smaller doses, one day at a time. Don't go too far ahead in the thinking, right? And ask for help when needed.
Thank you, both of you, so much for sharing your expertise and insights today to help other moms. And thank you again to our partners for helping us produce this episode and for their support of March of Dimes and families everywhere. We encourage you to learn more by visiting March of Dimes website at itstartswithmom.org. There, you are going to find more information, recommendations, resources, stories from other moms, and the latest up-to-date information that you'll need. And thank you to the March of Dimes and It Starts With Mom for this important program and conversation. It Starts With Mom is an excellent resource for moms and moms-to-be and their families to help them along the way through pregnancy and beyond. So thank you for joining us in this important conversation, and always remember, it starts with knowledge, it starts with community, it starts with care, and as always, it starts with mom.